Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you. We're so glad you're here. This is our first community forum of 2023, and we're really, really glad you're spending it with us. My name is Zitzi Miraker. I am part of the Lexington League of Women Voters. It's nice to see some old faces and some new ones, and we're really looking forward to a great conversation and presentation today. Just so you all know, we are recording this event. So others who couldn't be here today can also listen in at a later time. And we would really love for this session to be as interactive as possible. So please do participate, ask questions, make comments. You're welcome to verbally ask them. You're also welcome to put them in the chat, and I will make sure that I read the questions out loud for those of you who maybe can't access the chat, or if you're joining by phone and can't see what's happening in the conversation. You're also, I will say, you're welcome to chat to the entire group, or if you feel more comfortable to send me a direct message, feel free to do so. So our focus for today will be on the Kentucky General Assembly, or the Kentucky Legislature, which, as you know, meets in Frankfort this time of year. And we have two wonderful experts here to fill us in on what's going on. So I'm gonna introduce our two speakers for today. Our first speaker is Cindy Heine. Cindy, as you all know, retired as the Associate Director of the Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence, which is a citizens group working to improve education in Kentucky. And prior to that, Cindy worked at the University of Kentucky Medical Center. Cindy currently serves on the board of the League of Women Voters of Kentucky, as well as a liaison to the state legislature for the Kentucky League. And Cindy received her bachelor's degree in nursing from the University of Michigan. Thanks so much for being here, Cindy. Really appreciate you. And then our second speaker today is Mary Jo Rodgers. Mary Jo retired from the Manager of Consultants in the Governor's Office of Technology, which was in Frankfort, where Mary Jo was a contract officer for the Kentucky Department of Employment Services. And Mary Jo, prior to that, also worked as the manager of the Kentucky Recruitment and Job Placement as a part of a contract for the U.S. Department of Labor's Job Corps program. Mary Jo, like Cindy, is also a liaison to the state legislature for the Kentucky League, and is a graduate of Spalding University from right here in Louisville. So thank you to both of you. Thank you, Mary Jo. Really appreciate you being here today. And what we're actually going to do is start off by talking a little bit amongst ourselves. So we're going to split everyone up here into small groups of 2 to 3 people each. And we'll leave you there for 5 minutes to chat amongst yourselves. So we ask that you do 2 things. One is please introduce yourselves to one another, and then share your experiences around these 2 questions. The first is, when and how have you interacted with one of your elected representatives? And this can be at the state, local, or federal level, and what happened? And then the second is, what questions do you have as a group about the upcoming legislative session in Kentucky? And you're welcome to put these questions in the Zoom chat when we reconvene as a full group. Does anyone have questions? What I will do is also put these 2 questions in our chat. Forgive me, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second while I do that. I'm not as skilled at Zoom as Jen, so you will all have to bear with me here for a second.
Let me just say, for those of you who haven't done breakout rooms before, you really don't have to do anything. If you sit, you'll be put in a room, and when the session ends, you'll come back to this larger group. So you don't have to know anything to go into a small meeting room.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and create these breakout rooms, and it'll pop up for you, and you just have to go ahead and join the room. Okay, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. I'll give everyone a warning.
Democrats, and right now we have 2 vacancies. Senator McGarvey, of course, was elected to Congress, and Senator Alvarado has moved to Tennessee to take a job there. And so those vacancies will be filled fairly soon. We have 8 women of the 38, and that's a good thing. And I think we'll end up with another woman, because I think there are 2 women running for Senator McGarvey's seat. So that would make it 9. That's good. In the House, we have 80 Republicans and 20 Democrats, but we have 31 women. And I think that's a good thing. That's probably more than we've had in the past. So we're making progress, ladies. Legislative priorities. Next slide, Zitzi. We mentioned just as we were getting started, House Bill 1. This is the key priority for legislators this session. The whole intent of this legislature and the leadership is to eventually eliminate our individual income tax. Back in 2022, a year ago, the legislature passed House Bill 8. That was a bill that set up a process so that with certain economic triggers, the income tax rate could be reduced. And those were things like having a set amount of money in the rainy day fund, the revenue growth, contributions to the retirement system, several things like that. And if they met those triggers, they would reduce the rate. Well, those triggers were met. So House Bill 1 would reduce the state income tax from 5% to 4.5% in 2023, and it will reduce the rate from 4.5% to 4% in 2024. If that all happens, if this bill passes and that happens, in 2024 alone, we will lose $1.2 billion. And that's out of about a $15 billion budget. So that's a pretty big chunk of our general fund budget. And the increase in sales tax, which is what they also put in House Bill 8 last year, is to begin to help replace those dollars. However, they will only replace about $1 of every 12. Now, those sales taxes go on services, and there are a variety of things that they tax. Parking is one, tattoos is another, your dry cleaning is another. So you'll see taxes on a number of things that you hadn't seen, and that is now in effect. That just went into effect this year. So that's a key issue for them. They have already moved this bill so quickly that it has gone through the House and it has gone to the Senate. It's already had 2 readings in the Senate, and they can come in on the 7th, hold an Appropriations and Revenue Committee meeting, pass it out at the committee, and take it right to the floor on the afternoon of the 7th. I'll talk to you a little bit in a few minutes about some of the concerns we have about transparency with the legislature. And this is an example of lack of transparency, because this is going to pass really, really fast. We put out an action alert yesterday asking people to call legislators, and we hope if you haven't done it, you will do so. Call the Senate and leave a message for all members of the Senate that we oppose House Bill 1. We don't think the state can afford it. We have too many other needs. So that's the key priority issue for the legislature. I want to just put in a pitch for our key fund, our issue that we would like to see happen, and that is restoring voting rights to people with felony convictions. House Bill 97, which was filed by new Representative Keturah Herron from Louisville, puts an amendment on the ballot to change the Kentucky Constitution to automatically restore voting rights to Kentuckians with convictions. And then it adds a 5-year waiting period for those people to get other civil rights back. And those are rights like being able to serve on a jury and being able to run for public office. We have been hearing, unfortunately, from legislative leaders that they're not interested in putting amendments on the ballot in any near future because they lost both amendments that were on the ballot last fall. And so we're not sure that the leadership is going to allow a bill like this to pass. But we are going to be working on it. We're going to be asking you to call and ask legislators to push on getting it heard. Next slide, Zitzi. Mary Jo is going to talk to you about House Bill 50 and Senate Bill 50, and then one other issue that's not on our list. And then I'll come back and go through the rest of these bills. Mary Jo?
Fine, and welcome all. House Bill 50, of course, and Senate Bill 50 also. They want to, they're looking toward making all local races partisan. And so that you're going to have to declare whether you're a Democrat or Republican if you want to run for sheriff, or if you want to run for mayor or whatever, and all the local races. I have tried to do some reading on this one to see what is this particular, what gain do you get from this, and or what other states have this, and does anybody think about what the gain do you get from this if you have to, you know, if you're have to put down that you're a Republican for a sheriff, or is it just try to finagle partisanship for, you know, for local money, getting contributions for money? I see sheriff is already, well, it's just some of the local issues that we have around here. School board.
I think school board is where they're looking at it, because then they can, you know, it's a conservative dog whistle for some of the little, you know, the out there things that they're promoting, you know, that they want gone now, like, you know,
Books in the library.
Right, yeah, banning books in library, CRT, you know, realistic things. But
I also
throwing that out there.
Yeah, and I also think with that, by making those races partisan, typically, if you have something like a school board, people that are going to vote, they don't really care whether that person is a registered Republican or Democrat. So I think those partisan will kind of stir that pot up. So now, because you have to declare if there is, let's say there's a Democrat in there or an independent and they're running unopposed, well, then we're going to get somebody to oppose them. I think it's a way to kind of stir up, you know, stir the pot up, so to speak. I don't know what.
Also increase contributions probably to the party.
Yeah, I honestly, maybe, but I think more of what we're seeing going on with school issues, I think it would be more of that, but I don't know. I'm still a newbie.
One of the senators supporting it said that they needed them to be partisan so they knew they could judge the type of person that was running.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yes.
Okay.
So
Yes.
they knew what curriculum the person was going to try to push specifically.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's a way to label people.
Yes.
So that you know
Yes.
who to be against.
Okay, let's move on to the
go
next
ahead.
issue.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Cindy, it looked like maybe Dolores was trying to jump in here.
Oh, Dee, but she's muted.
Oh,
I'm
Okay.
sorry, what was that?
It's also geared toward Louisville and Lexington. They want to make Louisville and Lexington red to go with the rest of the state. So don't forget that.
Okay, that's good. Let me talk about a little bit, another thing that I picked up, and some of you all may have looked at it. KET had a special forum on the Kentucky juvenile justice system, which was the 23rd of this month. And it was really interesting. It was very passionate. Whitney Westerfield was there, also Jason Nemes, and then some new women legislators from Louisville. It was it's on recording for you to be able to pick up. I think it's very worthwhile to listen to it. They are just they want money put into this juvenile justice. They're very upset about what's happening in the juvenile facilities. They don't particularly think that maybe building a new facility would help. And also they want all the money to come from the governor's pot of money. It was very interesting and that drifted back every single time is they're not willing to fool with House Bill 1. They want the governor to come up with all salaries, buildings, extra police, all this stuff. So I would recommend you to watch that.
Okay, so let's move on to a couple of other issues that we are hearing about. Legalizing medical marijuana is something that several legislators have been caring about and talking about for some time. With Governor Beshear's recent executive order pardoning those with medical conditions who have marijuana, I think that has up the ante in terms of the conversation. Representative Jason Nemes has been pushing this for a long time. There are some folks in the Senate who are interested. So we think this might have a chance. We don't know. There are a number of bills that have been filed. One has been filed by a Senate Republican with bipartisan support, co-sponsors, and that is Senate Bill 47. If anything has a chance to pass so far, that may be it. So watch for that issue. The issue of legalizing sports betting and gray machines has been out there, and those who have been pushing hard on them, of course, want those to continue. The sports betting, I believe, got a pass in the House last year, but died in the Senate, and we'll see if that comes back. There was a lot of discussion last year about gray machines. Some people call these skilled machines. They're like slot machines, and they're showing up in local stores, gas stations, and they're creating revenue for those small businesses. So those folks don't want them to go away. They are not legal, but they're not illegal. And so there's an issue, there's a strong interest on the part of some to make them legal and tax them and regulate them. Don't know where that's going to go this year, but that's something to watch. Zitzi, next slide. And unfortunately, we could talk for hours about all of these issues. Education, I know there are some questions in the chat about education. I spoke with the new chair of the House Education Committee recently, and he was very interested in the issue of teacher vacancies and trying to boost the number of people interested in teaching and going into the teaching profession. There are 11,000 vacancies in Kentucky right now. The governor proposed across the board salary increases, as well as pre-K for all 4-year-olds. And House Bill 88 was filed by Representative Graham in support of the governor's wishes. Legislators say they have already increased the SEEK funding for schools, and the school board should decide on a local basis whether to increase teacher salaries. A lot of districts have done that. A lot of districts, quite a few districts have not. So we'll have to watch and see how that goes. House Bill 33 is the Innovative Teacher Education Grant Program. That is filed by the House Education Committee Chair, whose name will come to me in a minute. And because he is chair of that committee, my guess is that will get some attention. That would provide some grant funding for teachers and a couple of other programs and policies trying to, again, boost the teacher cadre across the state. So watch for those. In terms of education funding, there will probably not be funding. They won't open the budget to add funding for teachers this year. That's what we've been told by Senate leadership. So the across the board salary increases are probably not going to happen. Let's see, Medicaid coverage losses. We know from, oh, thank you. It's Representative Tipton has filed House Bill 33. And you can, if you watch the Education Committee meetings, you'll probably see a discussion about that before too long. There have been Medicaid coverage losses. You've probably been reading about that in the paper. With the expansion and relaxation of the rules during COVID, eligibility for COVID or for Medicaid expanded and has not been changed. And so there's an effort to go back and look at who is now on Medicaid and whether or not they should continue to remain on Medicaid. And it looks like thousands of people may end up losing their coverage. The legislature could address this issue, but I'm doubting that they're going to do that. But that's an issue to watch. We may see some discussion about that. Reproductive health. This is an issue that got an incredible amount of attention last year. And of course, the Amendment 2 on the ballot last fall was defeated. Because of that defeat and because of the court cases that we are still waiting to hear about, there have been no bills filed that I've seen on reproductive health. And our understanding is they're going to sit tight on that until they know what is likely to happen with those what will happen with those court rulings. My guess is that I know nationally, one of the issues that has been discussed and states are working on is rules to limit the distribution of medications used in abortions and mailing those medications. And I think there's a new court suit starting to look at that issue. So if we get anything on reproductive health, it could be along those lines. Next slide, Zitzi. One of the things that could come up is redistricting. That also depends on a court ruling. The courts are trying to decide whether maps like this, the first congressional district map in particular, that stretches from the Kentucky River to the Mississippi, is unconstitutional. And we'll have to wait for the courts to decide. If the courts say this is okay, nothing will happen and this will remain in effect. The House maps were also challenged in court. If the courts find in favor of the plaintiffs, the legislature will have to go back to the drawing board and deal with redistricting again. So that's something we just want to keep reminding you of, how difficult and how inappropriate and gerrymandered our districts are, and in particular our congressional districts. We need a better process in the long run for redistricting. Next slide, and I'm sure there are questions, you're going to have questions about some other issues that we can talk about as we go along. But where are we with time? We're actually doing fairly well with time. But let's go to the next slides. I want to talk to you a bit about the limited opportunity for input and scrutiny as legislation is passed. One of the things that's happened in the last few years is that the bills are going into and out of committees and the floor and getting their readings, which are required before a floor vote. And they do the readings prior to the committee hearing. their rules clearly state that the readings, the 3 readings for each bill are to come after the committee has voted the bill out of committee, but they're not doing that. By the time they've had the second reading, they can take a bill into committee. They can file and pass a committee substitute that may be very different from the original bill, and then pass it out and take it straight to the floor, give it its 3rd reading, and pass it out and send it on to the next chamber, to the other chamber. That leaves people with very little time to react to or respond to a bill. It gives us no time to know what's actually in a committee sub, perhaps, and then react and ask people to call the legislature. Next slide, please. Because of that, by the way, we are trying to get ahead of the process. And so, for example, the legislature is not even in session, but we ask you to call about House Bill 1 before they come back into session, because we anticipate that they'll jump on that the minute they get back. The bills are valid because they keep going. Nobody has challenged this in court. And the problem is they have the ability to make their own rules. And so they pretty much do what they want to do. Sometimes they follow the rules to the T, and many times they suspend the rules and change them mid-process. The other thing that's happened that is different is prior to 2021, all House and Senate bills were referred to committee no matter what. But in 2021, the House changed its rules, and they may refer bills to committee, but they don't have to. So the leadership is deciding which bills will go to committee. And basically they're deciding which bills will be heard. And in some cases, they're deciding what bills will be filed. So the leadership is incredibly, incredibly powerful in terms of making important decisions for the legislature. And it's very frustrating to us because they suspend the rules, they do what they want, and because they have such super majorities in both chambers, they can move on and pretty much do what they want. Let's go to the next slide, Zitzi. Okay. Before we do that, let's see we need to move on. Mary Jo, why don't you start with do this section.
Okay, be happy to. My group that I was in, group 1, almost did this right for me because they were asking the very good questions. It's interesting to try to get a hold of your legislator. And of course, we have our action alerts, and they are what the league has decided, the state league board has decided that this is what we want to support. And then we ask that then goes out an action alert that says, here, do this as fast as you can. So you can call the legislature yourself, and and you can ask for your own legislator, or you can ask that a message sent to your own legislator, and identify yourself if you want for the league or without the league, whatever, and go ahead and put in our league's request for vote yes or vote no. The LRC's people that are retirees that I've met had some meetings with, they say that the legislators respond to volume. And so that's one of the things that, and I noticed Dee said before that when she calls up there, she asks the poor telephone woman that she sent, that you can pare it down anyway. You can say who you are and that you want vote no or vote yes on a particular bill, and you want that sent to all the senators. Or you can ask that they be sent to all the House members, or you can ask for everything, all 138 people. They will notify that you have sent in a request to vote no. But we do know that volume matters. And so, if they get close to 80 to 100 vote, notices to say vote no, it matters to them. Cindy and I talked a little bit about this because we don't have that kind of volume, or we've never pushed for that kind of volume. Boy, I don't know, but the teachers can, they can crank them out. They can crank out 200 and 300 messages to the legislators very, very fast. My husband is a retired teacher, so I see those too. So we need to be able to do this more. And so please try to go ahead and say, send it to all send this message to all the senators or all the legislators, 138 of them. So it will help us. I think it will help us. Then also think about this. We have the asking that we have the action alerts. We also have you have some things that maybe the league is not addressing, such as Medicare or something like that you are for. Just go ahead and call and leave a message for, and you don't have to identify yourself as a league. You should not identify yourself. If the league isn't put out on an action alert or hasn't voted to support particular legislation, you cannot do it. You have to do it on your own. So that's how it's done. And you can, and I also talked to one of the phone answers up there in Frankfurt today, and she and I were talking, and I said, she said, well, it's important that you let your own legislature know and legislator know how you're voting. And I said, yes, but there's a lot of times that we are we are working on another bill with somebody that's not our legislator, but we want that legislator to know how we want them to vote on another particular subject. So it is important to just spread out what you are interested in. And of course you can write them, you can email them. I know that Dee has a lot of correspondence going back and forth with the legislators. Email them. If you take a look at their particular page, they have their email address, sometimes they have their home address. You can get back and forth. And a lot of times, once you start corresponding with them by email, they'll give you their a cell phone or something that you can get in to see them easier. Okay. Yes, they will also, thank you. They want to know where you live because they want to know if you're their legislator. But once you start working with on a particular topic and some committee members, they learn who you are and working with the league, and they respond sometimes negatively, but they do respond to what you're inquiring about. Okay, we did talk a little bit about this before. You can always call and make an appointment with your representative. We do a lot in Louisville and just meet them out at the local, hamburger joint and sit and talk to them about what their what their interests are, what we're interested in them supporting. So, and it's also fun, I think, at least one time a quarter to go to Frankfurt, see their offices, see it, and but you've got to have an appointment to get in there. And I haven't been down to this time because I don't know how security is. Cindy, have you been down at all?
I've not been down this session, but I understand it's pretty easy to get in.
Okay, good,
You do have to go through security, but it's not that difficult now.
good. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you do have a chance to meet with your own legislator and you've got more than just a very few minutes, it's really good to ask them what their priorities are and find out where their interests are. It's good information to have. And then as we move on, we want to be sure that we're promoting the issue of restoring voting rights, but also promoting the idea of a better process for redistricting. So those are two key issues the league is interested in. So be sure to mention those if you have an opportunity to talk with them. And then if you have an opportunity to talk and learn interesting information, we'd love to have you share it with us because that gives us good feedback. Zitzi, back up one slide, please. Go ahead, one further. No, here we are. We are going to have a league day in Frankfurt on February 21st. We will be sending email information out about that soon. I would love to have you join us. I'll be going over during the session at least one day a week. And if you're interested in joining me just to have lunch and then sit in on a committee meeting or two, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I probably will go over on either Tuesdays or Thursdays this week. Every Friday, our legislative team meets beginning February 3rd and through March 24th. We'd love to have you join us if you'd like any time. Just send us an email and let us know you'd like to join us and we'll send you the Zoom link. We talk about the bills that have come up, what we've heard that week, what action alerts might need to go out and that kind of thing. And then the last slide, Zitzi, and we'll leave the last slide up and we'll go to some of your questions. And Zitzi, I've noticed a couple of them. I've had a chance to look at the chat room. Someone asked if we were interested or going to support ranked choice voting or open primaries. And we know that there was a bill filed recently that would have prohibited party voting. In other words, pulling the lever for all Democrats or all Republicans. That bill didn't go anywhere. My guess is it probably never will. We are very interested in ranked choice and open primaries, but we don't have a policy on it. The National League doesn't have a policy either. They ask that local or state leagues do their own studies and decide for themselves on those issues. So one of the things we're talking about this coming year is doing a study on ranked choice voting and probably open primaries also. See if we in Kentucky can come up with a position on whether we would support those or not. There's some real interesting conversations that we can have about that. Somebody asked about House Bill 318. I think that must have been a past juvenile justice bill. And I'm sorry, but I don't know if that bill is coming back or not. I'm sure, I would bet there'll be something on juvenile justice. We just don't know quite what. Someone else asked if McGarvey's seat would be filled quickly or if it would take a while. They will, once that election is over, they will swear that person in probably the next day or within the week for sure. They do not wait around because they want to be sure voters in that district are represented.
That election, Cindy, is
Yes.
February the 21st.
So that district will be without representation until then. And I haven't heard when there will be an election to fill Senator Alvarado's seat. we'll find out. Someone asked about ALEC. ALEC is a very conservative legislative council, national group that proposes legislation, and they propose language for bills, and those bills show up in legislatures across the country. We've heard about similar bills from other state leagues that have been filed in their states. I don't know how many of our bills are actually ALEC originated bills, but we know that there are some. Someone asked if there was any hope that House Bill 1 would be defeated. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid there's no hope that it'll be defeated. It's on a roll. Someone mentioned that House Bill 97 had gone to the Committee on Committees. Legislators' bills get filed, and the Committee on Committees determines what committee they go to and which bills in the House, which bills even go to committee. Sometimes bills will sit in the Committee on Committees through the whole session, but I have seen bills go from the Committee on Committee into committees later in the session. So it's not a complete death knell, but it is a death knell for some bills. Debbie just asked if we're going to support House Bill 97. Yes, we would support House Bill 97. We might ask for some or be interested in some amendments to it, but that's the only bill so far that's been filed. And yes, we will be talking about Representative Keturah Heron's bill.
And Cindy,
Yes,
Patty Kanapples asked about the ranked choice voting.
Yes.
The state board has voted that we're going to actually educate ourselves about ranked choice voting, but obviously that doesn't have any chance of coming in this legislative session.
someone else asked about the 12-to-1 ratio of sales tax versus gains versus income tax losses. That data came from the Kentucky Center on Economic Policy, and I don't know the details of that, but they're a very well-regarded group who puts out very good information. And there may have been some more questions that I missed. Are you seeing any?
Yeah, one question
Cindy?
here is, do they count the reading of a bill before the common committee as a reading?
Yes.
Let me say this. Thayer and Jason Nemes were at the Louisville Forum. I guess it was last month. I've lost track. Anyway, Cindy is correct. I mean, they are pushing. Their priority is House Bill 1. They're going to reduce these taxes come hell or high water. And there are others. They spent a lot of time on this whole issue of the gaming issues involving those machines and the horse industry. And so something's going to happen with that, I would predict, based upon Thayer and Nemes. And then if you listen to the program on juvenile justice, as you all pointed out at the beginning, I think, I'm not sure what Bratcher's bill 318 says, but I think it's going to pass whatever it says.
I think I just saw a question about House Bill 30, the bathroom bills in our schools. We have not taken a position on that yet. The league has very clear positions about fairness in housing and employment. When it comes to these more specific issues, we haven't come to agreement on those, Chris. But we're going to be talking with National League about some of these things to see if they have more specific positions that we can take. We are clearly tuned into those issues of LGBTQ plus community, and we'll be looking at those closely. Let's see, Jen has put information in about our QR code on that last slide. Zitzi, can you back up one? We will be putting our action alerts out with via email messages, as well as they will be on Outreach Circle. This is a nice way to get information on your phone and take action directly on your phone. And we'll be putting up lots and lots of things there. There's already a lot of good information there, but there will be more information there as we go on. If you have not gone to the other thing to be aware of is we will have a bill list. It will be on our website, and we will be listing the bills that we are watching, that we support, or that we oppose. And from that website location, you can open up the LRC's page on the bill to actually read the bill summaries and the actual bill language to see the actions that have been taken. You can also see the voting history, who has voted for what. So there's, from that bill list, you can get to the LRC website and get lots of good information about these bills.
And that's the Kentucky League website, right, Cindy?
Yes, LWVKY.org. So Zitzi, do you see other questions that we haven't responded to?
I don't, and I will say, given where we are on time, if anyone has a last question, we can take it now. And while you're thinking of your questions, oh, someone's already jumping in here.
Okay.
Well, this isn't a question, but just to be aware of some other groups that might be supporting things we would also support. Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, and also Fairness is planning a day in Frankfurt. So you might just check when their rallies. I think Kentuckians for the Commonwealth used to go on Mountains, Protect Our Mountains Day. And I had a hat with Valentine hearts on it. So that's February 14th.
Yes, the Kentuckians for the Commonwealth and has been working closely with the Voting Rights Coalition, working on legislation to restore voting rights. And you may see some other bills pop up related to that, and we will be promoting that. On that day, February 14th is their day at the Capitol, and we're welcome to join them and encouraged to join them too on that day. We'll send out some more information about that. I'm pretty sure you can register for that already, and we'll get that information out to you in the next week. If anybody wants to hang around for a few more minutes, we could talk, but the problem with these issues is you can talk all night. and I know we don't want to spend the whole night doing this, but thank you everybody for listening in. We'd love to see you on our Friday legislative team meetings. And we'd love to see you in Frankfurt on League Day at the Capitol on the 21st of February.
What
Thanks
time
so
was the
much,
Friday
Cindy.
meeting again?
They're 12:30 to 1 o'clock Eastern time every Friday.
I'll say one
here-
last thing here is that the Lexington League has its next community forum on February 16th as well. And it's called Traces and Fragments, Piecing Together the Story of the People Enslaved at Ashland. So we'll have a presentation from some folks over at the Ashland Estate. So please come back for that. And thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Mary Jo. We really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you, Lexington League, for inviting us.
Absolutely. And I'm so impressed with some of the issues that came through on the chat line. we need you all on Fridays, our Friday meeting. So please feel free to join us. We'd love it.